Hey, how's it going, everybody? This is RBT coming at you with my Week 7 College Football prediction video. Got a lot of videos to make. I'm trying to make all my videos on Monday now, so I don't have to do them throughout the week. So let's go ahead and get started with my Week 7 predictions. I haven't really checked to see what games are this week, but let's go right into it. Arizona State at Colorado. That's a pretty bad Thursday night primetime game because Arizona State's going to absolutely blow out Colorado. I'm going to say 52-10 because Colorado is absolutely terrible. They're terrible on offense, terrible on defense. They got lucky with their one win over Washington State. They had to come back. This doesn't seem like Mike Leach can ever beat Colorado no matter where he's at. But looking at their stats right now, they're giving up 40 points a game. 40 points a game. They really haven't. They haven't. Not like they played the best teams in the country. They played Colorado State, Sacramento State, Fresno State, Washington State, UCLA. They haven't played powerhouses. So Arizona State's probably the best offense that they've played so far. So I'm definitely going to say Arizona scores 52 points and they hold Colorado to 10. Moving on to the Saturday games. Louisville at Pitt. I think Louisville pretty easily remains undefeated against so far this year against Pitt. I'm gonna say Louisville and Teddy Bridgewater win this game 31-20. I do think Louisville struggles, especially with it being at Pitt. I do think Ray Graham, Tino Sinceri has a decent game against that Louisville defense. Louisville's been winning so far this year. They're undefeated, but they're winning really ugly. They've won really ugly against teams like Southern Miss, who's like 0-5 now. They got pulled out by Boise State last week. Won ugly against North Carolina, ugly against Florida International. But like I always say, a win's a win. That's all that matters. So, like I said, I'm saying Louisville 31, Pittsburgh 20. Kansas State at Iowa State. I don't think this is necessarily an upset. Going to be an upset, but I do think it's very, very close. I think Iowa State loses this game by 3 points. I'm going to say Kansas State 34, Iowa State 31. Iowa State really, really impressed me last week against TCU. Even though they kind of took advantage of Casey Pahal being out of the game or being suspended. But I do think Iowa State has a good defense, a decent offense led by Jared Bennett. Going into Iowa State in hostile territory, I think Kansas State pulls out an ugly win, 34-31 over Iowa State. Texas versus Oklahoma. Is this game supposed to always be at 11 o'clock? I don't know. But David Ash and company barely got beat by West Virginia. I predicted 44-41. It was 48-45. It was a really close game. Texas's offense has really compensated for the defense because the defense was expected going into the year to be really good, probably the best in the Big 12, and that's definitely not been the case. But their offense is expected to be bottom half of the Big 12, and their offense is one of the better offenses so far this season in the Big 12. David Ash has really impressed people. They have a really nice running game. O-line's playing pretty well. They have a bunch of receivers that have a lot of talent. Marquise Goodwin is like the fastest person in the world. I'm gonna give. I know Oklahoma State absolutely blew Texas Tech out of the water last week. I thought Texas Tech was gonna get the upset. Props to Oklahoma fans, but I do think Texas wins this game very, very close. Gets revenge for the past few years. I'm gonna say Texas 28, Oklahoma State 20. No, I'm sorry. Oklahoma 24. Yeah, 28-24. Syracuse at Rutgers. I think Rutgers remains undefeated just like Louisville. I think Louisville Rutgers are going to be undefeated the rest of the year. This game is being played in New Jersey. Like I said, I think Rutgers wins, but very close, very ugly. I'm going to say 17-14 Rutgers. Iowa at Michigan State. Both these teams have been really disappointing so far this year. Michigan State barely squeaked out a win last week against Indiana, which is the worst team in the Big Ten. I do think Iowa wins this game coming off a bye week. They are not a great team by any means. They have close wins against Northern Illinois, Northern Iowa. They beat Minnesota, that was undefeated, which was really impressive, by the way. Their last game, they had, like I said, they're coming off a bye week, so I think it really helps them coming off a bye week. They're rested up. what's the guy's name? Wiseman, the running back. I remember he had an insane game against Central Michigan, even though they lost that game. But I do think James Vandenberg and Wiseman has to have a big game. And I do think they have a big game. I think Iowa's defense comes up big in this game. I think Iowa wins this game in a Big Ten style football game, 21-17 over Michigan State. Northwestern at Minnesota, the battle of the 5-1 Big Ten teams who were both undefeated a few weeks ago, but that is not the case now. Minnesota's also coming off a bye week, and Northwestern's coming off that disappointing loss against Penn State. They failed to be bowl eligible or to become bowl eligible last week. They would have with a win. But for some reason, Northwestern can't beat Penn State. I don't know why that is, but they just can't. And I do think Northwestern is bowl eligible after this game. I think they beat Minnesota pretty handily. Their 4-0 record to start the year was a fluke. They played easy teams, and I'm gonna say Northwestern gets the W, 28-14 over Minnesota. Wisconsin at Purdue. Purdue was absolutely just blown out last week against Michigan. I thought Purdue was going to give Michigan a run for their money. I thought Purdue was actually going to beat Michigan, but Wisconsin's coming off a big win against Illinois, 31-14. The defense is coming up big, and if Wisconsin wants to be able to challenge other teams in the Big Ten, their defense is going to have to play exceptional. Because their quarterback play is definitely subpar. Their offensive line is definitely underperformed compared to the last few years. Monte Ball is having an average year at best when everybody thought he was going to have an insane Heisman type season, and he's definitely not. I'm going to say Caleb Turbush and the Purdue offense wins this game. Like the game day people said, in the tall grass at Purdue. I'm going to say Purdue wins this game 28-24 for Wisconsin. Auburn at Ole Miss. Ole Miss coming off the absolute disappointing loss for Rebel fans against Texas A&M. Auburn's coming off the absolutely demolishing, disappointing loss against Arkansas, 27-7. That was pathetic. Quarterbacks holding the ball way too long. Kyle Frazier being not smart with the football. I think they ended up with 8-9 sacks in that game. That's absolutely pathetic, especially against the front seven of Arkansas, who's not great at all. So I do think Auburn loses this game to Ole Miss. Ole Miss is really impressive. They've had a bunch of tough games early in the year. The 3 losses came to Texas A&M, which is a pretty good football team, Alabama, and Texas. And they even scored 31 points against Texas. So I think Ole Miss is probably better than Arkansas and Auburn right now in the SEC West. And I think Hugh Freeze has them going in the right direction. And I do think they get the W against Auburn and gets their first SEC win of the year. And I say Ole Miss wins 37-20 over Auburn. Duke at Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech was absolutely blown up on defense against North Carolina last week. Giovanni Bernard had over 200-something rushing yards against Virginia Tech, and that's definitely unlike Virginia Tech. Duke right now sitting at 5-1, and this game would make them bowl eligible for the first time in a really, really long time. So you know what? Coming off a big win against Virginia Tech's arch rival Virginia, I'm going to give Duke the upset pick this game. If you look at the records, it's not really an upset, but I think Sean Renfree, I think I've said this a bunch of times, he's probably one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the ACC. Connor Vernon, I think he set the reception record for a single game last week against Virginia. They absolutely destroyed Virginia 42-17. Their defense is playing quite well. I think playing at home, or it's at Virginia Tech rather. I think they do upset Virginia Tech, very close. I'm gonna say 31-30 Duke. Temple at Connecticut. Temple did get an upset win last week against South Florida. I think Connecticut is going to hand the ball off to Lyle McCombs about 40 times this game and play defensive. It's going to be a defensive struggle at Connecticut, and I'm going to say 14-10 Connecticut. North Carolina at Miami. Miami was absolutely blown out last week against Notre Dame. The final score is 41-3. Miami is 3-0 in the ACC, but outside the ACC, they've lost 93. They've been outscored 93-16 outside of ACC play. That is pretty bad. Their defense is terrible. Their offense is sketchy. It can be good at times, and sometimes can be absolutely pathetic. I do think big part of that last week is Notre Dame's defense is one of the best in the country, if not the best in the country. And that's a really big statement with all the defenses out there. And this game's going to be at Miami with about 20 fans in the stands. It's going to be close, but I'm going to give North Carolina the edge. I think Giovanni Bernard has another big game. And I'm going to say Giovanni Bernard gets about 220 rushing yards. I'm going to say North Carolina outscores Miami. I do think Miami scores a bunch on North Carolina playing at home. I'm going to say North Carolina wins this game 38-34 over Miami. Utah at UCLA. UCLA was absolutely blown out last week against Cal. Zach Maynard had Menard Maynard had a big game against the Bruins last week. And UCLA started out the season quite well, but they've dropped out of the top 25, and there's nothing more to say really. Their offense isn't playing as well as it did early. They kind of surprised people early on, but they're definitely going back to their being back to normal for UCLA standards of the past few years. And Utah's coming off a few days extra rest because they had that game against USC last Thursday night, and they had a pretty good game. I mean, they lost by 10, but a lot of people predicted them to lose by 20-something points. And they play USC tough, so I think they're going to play UCLA tough, and I think they're going to win this game. I'm going to say Utah wins this game 27-20 over UCLA. Maryland at Virginia. Virginia's performance last week against Duke was pathetic, and Maryland's been doing a lot better than they did week 1 against William and Mary. I mean, they're 3-2 right now. They had a win over Wake Forest last week, and Wake Forest is not always an easy test, and I think Virginia's just a bad overall team this year, so I'm going to go Maryland really close. I'm going to say 17-16 over Virginia. Alabama at Missouri. Missouri's going to be playing without James Franklin. This will be at Missouri. It's going to be a crazy atmosphere, but without James Franklin, Missouri has no chance whatsoever. I'm going to say Alabama wins this game 45-10 over Missouri. West Virginia at Texas Tech. Texas Tech definitely let me down last week. They were my upset pick. I thought they were going to beat Oklahoma, but they proved me wrong. Their defense is definitely not the number one scoring defense in the country like they were going into the Oklahoma game. And with that being said, West Virginia is going to score over 50 points in this game, mark it down, but they're going to give up over 40. I think Texas Tech makes it a 2-touchdown game, but I'm going to say West Virginia wins 54-40 over Texas Tech. It's going to be tough playing in Lubbock, but still, West Virginia's offense is unstoppable. Stanford at Notre Dame. This is going to be a very low-scoring game, I believe. At Notre Dame, Notre Dame's looking for revenge from last year, coming off a huge win against Miami. Stanford's coming off a thriller against Arizona. I think Stanford's going to be a tough task for the Fighting Irish, but I think they're going to come up short. Notre Dame's for real this year. Their offense is decent, not, I wouldn't say explosive, but they're average, a little bit above average. I think Everett Golson's really sparked their team, even though he doesn't. Tommy Reese gets in the mix every once in a while, but they have stable running backs that are really well. They have wide receivers, tight ends that are able to catch the ball. Defense led by Manti Te'o. I'm gonna go Notre Dame very close. I'm gonna say Notre Dame 20-24, Stanford 20. Oregon State at BYU. This game is gonna be extremely low scoring. Both these offenses are quite terrible. I don't think I would consider Oregon State's offense terrible. It's just not a high-scoring offense by any means. Both these teams have excellent defenses. Oregon State, I believe, has the best defense in the Pac-12. BYU has a top 5 defense in the country. BYU's lost 2 games, and they've been very, 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 very close. Tell you the scores right now. They are third in the country points against, and they played some pretty well offenses. They played Washington State, Utah, Boise State, Utah State, which is a pretty good offense. They held Utah State to 3 points, held Hawaii scoreless, held Boise State to no points, but they had a defensive touchdown, so that's why they won that game, and held Utah to 21 points. They lost 2 games this year combined by 4 points. So BYU's no easy task for Oregon State. They should be a top 25 team, I believe. But I think Oregon State wins this game 10-7. I'm gonna say 10-7 Oregon State. Illinois at Michigan is gonna get ugly in Ann Arbor. Denard Robinson is gonna have an insane game against that terrible Illinois defense. They got to rebuild under head coach Tim Beckham. And they're not there right now. Michigan's going to score over 40 points. I would say Michigan 45, Illinois 21. Oklahoma State at Kansas. This game's going to get ugly also. Kansas had they played tough against Kansas State early on last week, but they just exploded, or they got exploded on. Sounds kind of dirty. Against Kansas State last week in the Sunflower Showdown. And I say, Oklahoma State should score about over 50 points against Kansas, really. Oh goodness. J.W. Walsh is I wouldn't say he's better than Brandon Whedon by any means, but he's definitely surprising people as a freshman. And I'm gonna go ahead and say Oklahoma State 55, Kansas 24. Boston College at Florida State. Boston College got beat by Army last week. Army the week before got beat by Stony Brook 26-3. That's all you gotta say there. Florida State's gonna be looking for revenge. They're still battling for a BCS bowl. They can still go to the Orange Bowl, but I think even if they went out, they're not going to the national championship because they really needed to go undefeated to have a chance. So I'm gonna say Florida State wants some revenge, playing at home in Tallahassee. I'm gonna say Florida State wins this game, 38-14. Florida at Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt always plays Florida tough, especially at home. But I think Florida's defense is way too much for that Vanderbilt offense. I do think Vanderbilt keeps it close. Florida's offense is not explosive at all. Kind of like Alabama's last year to a point. But I'm gonna say Florida wins this game. I'm gonna say 21-7 over Vanderbilt. USC at Washington. I'm gonna go with this being my upset pick of the week. I think Washington and Keith Price. They've already upset Stanford. Stanford beat USC. They played Oregon kind of tough last week. Early on, a lot of mistakes for Washington, costing that ball game. The final score wasn't really as bad as it looked. The game wasn't as bad as it looked. But I think playing at home, Washington's a different team, even though they're playing at the Seahawks Stadium. I'm not sure the name of that stadium. I think USC is a little bit too confident. They're coming off a few days extra rest, but I think Keith Price and the Washington offense beats USC 31-27. Yeah. Kentucky at Arkansas. I'm going to go Arkansas in this game, not because Arkansas is a good team, just because Kentucky is absolutely terrible. It's terrible in all phases of the game. They can't play defense, can't play offense. Have no running game, really. Have no threats at wide receiver. They're the bad team. They're a really bad team. They don't have that many spectacular athletes, especially to compete with SEC teams, even if it's Arkansas, how they're playing. So I'm going to go Arkansas in this game. I'm going to say Arkansas 34, Kentucky 20. TCU at Baylor. I'm going to go Baylor in this game. TCU, as you saw last week, they're not near as a good team as they were with Casey Hall on the team. So with that said, I think Nick Florence and that Baylor offense is they're a dark horse for the Big 12. I don't think they win the Big 12, but they're gonna upset some teams, and I do think they upset TCU this week. And I'm gonna say Baylor wins this game. It's a high scoring game. I'm gonna say Baylor 42, TCU 34. The game of the week, and I do not know why game day is not going here. South Carolina at LSU. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go LSU in this game. I do think they win in South Carolina. South Carolina was impressive last week. Looked really impressive. But LSU, I think, playing at home, their defense is too much. I really do think it is. I think they make Connor Shaw look kind of bad. Connor Shaw's looked really good though in the last few weeks. He's looked like one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC. But LSU's defense is different from Georgia's definitely. LSU's hungry. They don't want to lose two straight SEC games. So I'm gonna say LSU. Low scoring game, kind of. I'm gonna say 21-17 LSU, close game. Ohio State at Indiana. Ohio State, if they can score 60 points on Nebraska, they can score 100 on Indiana. Ohio State should have no problem winning this game. I'm gonna say Ohio State 48, Indiana 10. No, Indiana 17. Tennessee at Mississippi State. I do think this game's gonna be very, very close, and I do think Mississippi State comes out of this game undefeated. I think Mississippi State wins this game 27-26 over Tennessee. It's going to be a really, really close game. Tennessee's a great team. Don't get me wrong. Not necessarily a great team, but they're not Tennessee the last few years. They have explosive offense. They can be great at times. Their defense is better than years past, but I think in Starkville with the Cowbells, Mississippi State finds a way to win this game. And I do think, if I remember correctly, I think they might have a bye week after this game. No, they play Middle Tennessee, which is basically a bye week. So if they win this game against Tennessee, they're going to be undefeated going into Tuscaloosa to take on Alabama. And I think they really, really want to do it, have a chance to beat Alabama with them being undefeated. So I'm going to say, if Mississippi State wins this game against Tennessee, they're going to skyrocket in the rankings. So I don't think many people believe that Mississippi State can beat a team like Tennessee, even though people have them ranked 19 in the country. So I'm going to say Mississippi State, being hungry, is going to win this game 27-26. They want to, they're ready to be a top team in the SEC. And I don't know if they have the ability to, but I know they're ready. And with that hunger, they're going to beat Tennessee. Texas A&M at Louisiana Tech. This is an interesting game. Number 22 versus number 23. If Louisiana Tech wins this game, they're definitely going to be the BCS Busters of the year because they'll go skyrocket in the rankings. Louisiana Tech's offense is insane. They're scoring 53 points a game. That's third in the country. They score 56 on Houston, 56 on Rice, 52 on Illinois, 44 on Virginia, and 58 on UNLV. But with that said, I do think I look too much on the win against Virginia comparing them to last week because Virginia got absolutely shell-shocked by Duke, scored 40-something points in Duke. So when you look back on that, the points that Louisiana Tech scored in Virginia aren't as impressive as they looked. So I do think Louisiana Tech scores over 30 points against Texas A&M because their offense is great. Their quarterback is, I think he's thrown 12 touchdown passes and no interceptions. Colby Cameron is his name. He's, let's see, I'm going to look at his stats because he's thrown 13 touchdown passes to no interceptions. He's already thrown for 1,477 yards, completing 69% of his passes. Only been sacked 5 times all season. That's a great stat, especially if you're a quarterback. You love not getting sacked. Trust me, I know the feeling. So they're going to make it tough, but old Johnny Manziel and that Texas A&M offense is going to outscore Louisiana Tech. I'm going to say Texas A&M 42, Louisiana Tech 34. Last game, Cal at Washington State. Cal's hungry. Cal started out the season really poor. And they came off to a 1-4 start, but they got an upset win against number 25 UCLA last week. They're looking for revenge. They've not really been blown out this year other than the USC game. They lost by 18 points. That's been their biggest blowout this season. So they play teams quite tough. I don't think Washington State has the athletes really right now to run Mike Leach's type of offense. Their defense is pathetic, seriously. Their offense can score points on you, but I'm not sure if that's enough to beat a team like Cal as of right now. Only scored 6 points in Oregon State's defense. Granted, I still think Oregon State's defense is the best defense in the Pac-10, Pac-12, but I do think Cal wins this game. I'm gonna say It's hard. 31-20 over Washington State. It's gonna be tough playing at Wazoo, but I do think Cal gets the W. So that's been my predictions. I don't know why this is really dark. See, it's a lot lighter now. So that's been my week 7 predictions. Hope you guys enjoyed. And as always, roll Tide, go Sox, and go Titans to you. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you guys later.